Yo, what's going on with y'all? It's your boy NeohXO, bringing y'all some predictions for the next chapter of Black Clover. And I thought it would be a good idea to do some predictions for Black Clover right now because, as you can see, the new chapter is coming in 4 days. So, yeah, if you like Black Clover, subscribe to the channel, drop a like, and let's get right into the video. So Black Clover chapter 272. Let's talk about some of these predictions. Now, I think everybody on the same page when it comes to this chapter. Basically, we're going to have Noct versus Asta. I want to say 99%. You know, the only reason I say 99% is because if you've been a long time manga reader of the Black Clover manga, you guys know that sometimes Tabata just be like really hard to predict, but like for the most part, it should definitely be this. Unless, of course, he shows Yuno or Noel. Y'all know how he does sometimes. But I don't think that's going to be the case considering we just had a week-long break of the manga. It would be kind of like he's trolling us if he didn't give us the fight between Noct and Asta. So I don't really have any crazy predictions this time. I basically think that what's going to go down is Asta and Leeb are going to have to pretty much continue facing off against Noct. Now, we did see in chapter 271 that Asta and Leeb were making some progress. And this is because Noct actually flinched and Asta was able to read his ki once he flinched and find where the real Noct was. And once Asta did sense Noct's ki, he was able to send a slash at him that kind of brushed off of Noct a little bit. It wasn't a direct hit, but it definitely connected with Noct, or at least his clothing. It connected really close. You guys get the point. You've probably read the chapter already. But yeah, in the next chapter, pretty much they're going to continue fighting. I do see this fight ending soon because we kind of been getting a lot of kind of the same thing going on lately. Like, considering the fight with Leeb started, no one really expected them to fight against Noct after that, but they did. So now it's kind of like the training of Asta has taken a lot of chapters, because I know people were saying that they wanted the Leeb versus Asta fight to be more chapters. And now that we're getting a Noct versus Asta and Leeb fight, it makes sense why the Leeb versus Asta fight wasn't as long. Because if you think about it, let's say the Noct and Asta fight turns out to be long, or the Leeb and Asta fight turned out to be long. If the Leeb and Asta fight turned out to be long, then we would have still had to have the Noct versus Asta and Leeb fight after that. And if that one turned out to be long, these chapters would have kind of dragged on. So I think Tabata knows what he's doing. I don't think this is gonna be one of those fights that drags on. Like, if you want an example of a fight that kind of lasts longer, it would be the fight between Dante and Asta. I wouldn't say it dragged because it was interesting, but you can only do that with certain fights. The reason Tabata was able to do that with the Dante versus Asta fight is because it was a super hype fight. This is kind of more of a casual fight because the stakes are not as extreme. During the fight against Dante, the stakes were extremely high. Now this is less extreme because we know that Noct is not going to kill Asta. Like, Dante would have probably had no problem killing off Asta, but we know that Noct is not going to kill Asta. They're just more or less sparring, so the stakes aren't as high. So I don't expect this to be dragged out very long. I actually would not be surprised if the conclusion of this fight is in chapter 272, and if it's not in 272, I would be extremely surprised if it's not concluded by 273, because let's be honest, let's be completely honest, we all want to see them go rescue Captain Yami. This training, pretty cool, but at the same time, we all know what we want to see, and that's them go retrieve Captain Yami, fight against the Dark Triad. Like, I'm ready to get that underway. Now, I am being patient because Tabata might have some things in store for us before that, but I do see that coming very soon. Within the next, I want to say 5 chapters, we should be heading into the direction of the Dark Triad in the Spade Kingdom, because if you think about it, like, they only were supposed to be training for a couple days, so you can't really stretch a couple days into like a bunch of chapters. You technically can, because, you know, sometimes like in anime and manga, fights be lasting like 20 episodes, you know. Sometimes they just be lasting like 1 episode or 1 chapter, 20 chapters. You guys get the point, but that's basically what I see going on now. I don't see Asta getting a victory over Noct. That would be disappointing because Noct is a newly introduced vice captain, and we can't just see him getting beaten by Asta. Now, I'm not gonna say Asta can't beat him, but I'm gonna say it's highly unlikely that Asta actually wins. But I do see Asta actually competing, because think about it, Asta competed against Licht. He didn't beat Licht, but he competed against Licht. So I can see Asta competing against Noct, especially with the help of Leave. And that's what I want to see. I want to see Asta competing against Noct, kind of like with Licht. Licht, we all knew was gonna win, but Asta at least competed and showed some very impressive feats. And I really think Asta is going to show some very impressive feats, but he's not going to defeat Noct, but it's still going to be impressive nonetheless. And that is my predictions for chapter 272 of Black Clover. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please leave it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe. As always, it's been your boy NeohXO, and I'm out.